Hi, my name is Renato and today I'm here to talk about robots. Should we embrace or should we banish them? Since the industrial age, humanity has had a love-hate relationship with machines. Let's go back to when they were still dependent on humans to work. Everybody was excited about their existence because they brought rapid growth and helped humanity's vision of the future come to life. Fast forwarding past the creation of engines, radio, telephones, camera, television, computers, internet and mobile phones, we land on a completely different landscape from what the world used to be 100 years ago. And with it, a different look upon technology.
Warned this week that technology could end up ending humanity at some point.
You got the same feeling, right? Probably because technology is taking over humanity instead of humanity taking over technology. Maybe our high dependency on technology is revolving in our subconscious a very old feeling. Fear of the unknown, fear of uncertainty, because we never know till when we will control this ever-growing technology. Curious enough, not all visions on this new technological dependent humanity are negative. Media plays a huge part in the dissemination of information and helps us build our understanding of the world, our understanding on machines as well. Hence the importance of platforms like YouTube and Netflix that have gained a huge attention from the world. I would like you to analyze with me a recent show from Netflix and its comment on technology. No, I'm not talking about Black Mirror. Love, Death and Robots. It's a very recent acclaimed show that I think helps us inform our opinion on technology through very compelling stories. Because we don't have time to analyze every episode in this video, I will focus on just two films from the series. From the 18, we will just use for our analysis Sonny's Edge and Suits, which I think represent the overall message this series is trying to communicate. Let's start on why we should analyze this through the scope of short films instead of features. As once the master of short stories Edgar Allan Poe stated in his philosophy of composition, the power of a one-sitting story resides on the clear effect it will produce on the consumer once the affairs of the world don't have time to interrupt the flow of the story. In short films, every minute counts, and now more than ever, people have less time to sit in front of a screen for more than 1 hour, so short films are the perfect form for this consumerist society. Love, Death and Robots does this so well because of the high level of precision every line and scene was created. Each episode has around 10 to 15 minutes, but it doesn't mean that because we have such limited amount of time, we don't engage with the story as much as in a 1 hour film. The two films engage the audience at a level that very few stories can, and the proficiency that they convey its message can be defined by how well they marry the Raskin's 5 parameters that build a good short film. I would advise you to go on and watch these 2 episodes before continuing the video because there are spoilers. So, let's start with the first parameter, image and sound. Each one has a different aesthetic that perfectly fits the story, almost as if they were made for each other. In Sonny's Edge, the synthesizer epic soundtrack complements the futuristic underground world. The lack of connection Sonny has with her associates and the lack of sympathy towards the authoritarian figures sets up an ostracized character that once suffered the trauma that scarred her for life at their hands. Sonny is bold and doesn't care about how this outlaw society works. She's an outlaw made by her own hands. Hence the perfect fit between the bold colors of neon that break the darkness of the underworld. The same happens in Suits, a happy couple that lives off agriculture and even though living on a very technologically advanced society, have the same dramas that we encounter from the beginning of its creation. Right at the start, accompanied by country music, this American funny hardworking family speaks of their neighbors with no harm intended but respect, so characteristic of the American families represented in the movies. The style of animation fits the story because it feels like a texturized version of American animation that we can see on Sunday cartoons. Both stories have a unique aesthetic and soundtrack that enhances the mood of each one, making ground for the events to come. Another parameter that reinforces the uniqueness of these films is the character-object dynamic interplay. In Sonny's Edge, it is achieved by having the monster, the object, and Sonny being connected by a piece of technology. This monster works as an empowerment tool that gives Sonny the possibility of seeing her avenging quest marching. This relationship is so dynamic that by the end of the film it's completely inverted, with the object actually being in the place of the main character and the character as the object. Not as dynamic as this, but still, in Suits we have the same relationship with our main character and his robot. Hank is empowered by his robot, again. Through technology, our main character finds the equalizing tool to fight for the survival against the parasites that only crave for the destruction of his world. Curious enough, we have in these two stories the characters merging with their object through technology in order to drive the story forward. Nothing in these stories happen just for the sake of plot. Every event and choice is derived from the characters' inner motivation and control over their own story, and not the other way around. We enter then the next parameter, causality and choice. This refers to the free will the characters present in the story, and not the story defining the choices for the sake of the plot. For example, Sonny decides not to accept the bribe from the event organizer because the director wanted to make a comment on money. She says no because her quest screams for that choice. She is an outlaw that set herself to annihilate this type of men, ending up also commenting on the matters of money. In Suits, the same happens in a secondary character that usually exists just to help the main character in his story. Let's look into Helen and her waterfall of choices. Helen is the one that asks Jake to go and help Hank on the fight. It's Helen that motivates Jake to stay and embrace the fight with the others, even knowing the big danger her husband is about to face. It's Helen that helps Beth, getting all the family safe in the bunker, and even stays behind to help Beth on her mission, because she set herself to do it from the beginning of the story. She's a supporter, a motivator that carries on with her personality even though there are high possibilities of negative consequences. The story needs a Helen, but because choice is founded on her personality and keeps on with its consistency, we accept all of her choices as natural because they smoothly drive the story forward. This leads us to our next parameter, consistency and surprise. One of the worst things in a story is predictability. It makes us angry because it feels like the story is synthetic and just like all the others that we already saw. Characters that remain consistent within their personality but surprise us with their choices are pivotal to catch the attention of the viewer and sell its world as real. As once Johannes Rees stated in his Towards the Poetic of the short film, interest and curiosity are a long part of spectatorship, in particular of short films. The story needs to be surprising to hold our attention, yes, but never losing its consistency. For example, Sonic character is naturally sold to us on its loneliness because of the consistency in every line and smart cinematography of every scene. She wears a hoodie that isolates her from the surroundings. When entering the complex, she enters quietly with her friends on the other side of the frame while they excitedly discuss the status of their monster. Even after she won the fight, she is with her friends but still isolated in the background. Now, we're sold on her reservation. But apart from this display of loneliness, Sonny only demonstrates interest in someone when she sees Jennifer. This signals us to accept when Sonny sees Jennifer at the end of the hallway and chooses to go and meet her instead of celebrating her victory. We are still surprised by Sonny's choice, but we accept it because it's part of her character. Now, working upon Jake and Hank relationship from Suits, we see this parameter working as smoothly as well. Jake loves his machine, often praising it, but still doesn't hesitate to go and help Hank. This happens again when he sees the big trouble to come and still decides on going to help Hank and protect the farms. Again, when he's reloading his machine and he has the opportunity to save himself, still jumps into the front line of battle to give the others the opportunity to reload and fight for themselves. So finally we are touched when he makes the ultimate sacrifice for the sake of everyone. This event comes as a surprise, but we still accept his sacrifice because helping others is consistent within his character. This takes us to the last parameter, simplicity and depth. Simple and clear stories allow the viewer tone and space to reflect upon and participate in the construction of the story. In both cases, their simplicity allows the viewer to create a high degree of empathy with the characters and story. To maintain this degree of simplicity, but still give depth to the story, the director chooses to rely on metaphoric scenes that will make the viewer engage with its meaning almost subconsciously. When we see Sonny losing the fight because of this knife-looking bone her opponent draw from his arm, we deeply connect with this scene because we already know the past story where Sonny was mistreated and abused and marked with a knife and left to die. We don't need a flashback, we just need this simple shot. And we're there. Same when Hank has to hold himself to the metal crow Jake once presented him, making it possible to finish this huge alien and ending up giving Hank the victory. This works again as an important scene, being simple but effective because of the message we can draw from the simulation of the metal crow with Jake, making him the true hero of the story again. For a good film to work its message on the viewer, we need a good one, and I think both of these short films can be seen as masterpieces of their kind that easily embed their more in our subconscious. Both stories use technology as the object that helps our characters propel their story forward. In both cases, we need to merge humans and machines in order to grasp the possibility of success over evil. So the message of these short films are simple and clear. There is no need to create a barrier. Instead, We simply need to understand each other and find a way to work together towards the future, because there is space for all of us in there.